Ding 50! Welcome to the 50th, yes, 50th episode of Countdown to Classic. In just over 3 months, ladies and gents, we got there, and what a ride it has been. This is a podcast that repeatedly educates, informs, and gossips about World of Warcraft Classic. Each week we discuss the news, hot button issues, and content of the highly anticipated World of Warcraft Classic. I'm your host, Josh Corbett, and as you all know by now, this is a show where it's not my opinion on World of Warcraft that counts, but yours. If you're new to the show, Countdown to Classic goes through your expert input on everything relating to the sure-to-be amazing World of Warcraft Classic. Now, some of you may be asking, hey Josh, what gives? No Friday episode last week? Well, real life got in the way a little, so I do apologize for that, but I've also been playing with the format of the show going forward, and there'll be some slight changes from the end of this month onwards. Given that the show is now 50 episodes deep, many new listeners are struggling to catch up with the amount of episodes that I've been pumping out, and now I feel pretty comfortable that everyone realizes Countdown isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So the need for a push for name recognition has died down somewhat. Also, I need to actually find the time to play the damn game that I talk about so often, as it's kind of weird that I host a show about a game that I've barely had the chance to play in 3 months. Thus, after going hard on the show for the past 2 months, from the end of July onwards, the show will revert back to the 2 episode per week format that some of you might not be aware is what we actually started with. Those 2 episodes will consist of 1 interview and 1 forums or lore episode, switching between the 2 from week to week. However, we'll stick to 3 episodes per week for the next 3 weeks as I push out many of the interviews that I've conducted recently that I'm currently sitting on. And today, I'll be playing you one of those really interesting interviews as I recently chatted with speed leveler extraordinaire Joana, who, as many of you know, holds the world record for leveling to 60 in World of Warcraft Vanilla. Now, if you're a fan of the show and you'd like to comment, call in for a calling countdown segment, or just say hi, then please do reach out to me via the show's amazing Discord, the Twitter account at Count2Classic with the number 2, or email me at feedback@countdowntoclassic.com. You'll find all those links in the show notes for each episode. But for now, let's get into this interview with Joana, all about speed leveling in World of Warcraft and speed running games in general. Hello and a huge Countdown to Classic welcome to speed leveling extraordinaire Joana. How are you?
Hi, doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you. Now, obviously, people might be more than aware of your work, but you do go by a few different names. There's obviously Joana, FuriousPaul, and sorry, the third one, something about a cow. I've forgotten already. What was it again?
Mancow was actually the first World of Warcraft speedrunner character I started using, and then I switched to Joana after that. But lately, in 2013, I made an official gamer name for myself, which is FuriousPaul, and that was when I quit retail WoW and started speedrunning Castlevania on Twitch at that time.
Excellent, and I definitely want to get through a bunch of that stuff as well. The Castlevania part of your speed leveling career definitely does interest me, and I've got a boatload of questions about that a bit later on after we get through some of the Warcraft stuff. But what we do here on the show is just to get listeners to know a bit more about you if they're not quite as familiar, even though obviously you are reasonably well known within the community. I've just got a few questions about your World of Warcraft resume. So you ready to answer a few of these?
For sure.
Okay, question number 1. With as much specificity as you're comfortable with, where in the world are you from?
I'm from the state of Ohio.
And how long have you played World of Warcraft?
I started playing in the beta in 2003, and I pretty much speedrunning from 2005 through 2007. And then I continued to make leveling guides for the game all the way till 2013. And then that was when I quit retail WoW and started speedrunning on Twitch for Castlevania games.
And what was your original main character's name?
Character was Mancow. That was when I first started speedrunning vanilla WoW. It was Mancow for like the first 3 or 4 speedruns, and then I switched to Joana after that.
And what was Mancow's class and race?
A troll hunter.
And what other classes outside of hunter have you hit a level cap with?
A couple of undead warlocks.
And which server did you play on when you started?
What server was that? The first server, I think it was Lothar.
Do you prefer to play on PvE or PvE servers?
PvP. There was a few speedruns I did PvE on, and that was because of my friends were on there, and I decided to go on there and do a speedrun on a server that they were on, and they wanted to do PvE. I only done one PvE. All the other ones were PvP.
And what's your highest raid experience in the game?
I did Molten Core a few times, Blackrock Depths like a few times. But yeah, not too many. Most of my time was actually spent studying the game from 1 to 60 and speedrunning that, basically.
Now, are you currently playing World of Warcraft? And if so, where?
Playing vanilla WoW, but I'm not playing retail WoW.
Do you have a quick plug for any YouTube channels or Twitch channels or any content or anything you do online?
I'm spending pretty much all my time rebuilding my 1 to 60 vanilla guide, and that is on my website, joannasworld.com. So all the work I'm doing is right there. And if you go to joannasworld.com and click either the About or the 1 to 60 Horde leveling guide, you will see a news and update section there where I list all the stuff that I'm getting done, basically.
Okay, now complete this sentence so we know where your allegiances lie. For the
Horde.
All right, there you go. Now that we know a little bit more about you, if people weren't too familiar, obviously it is the case that you are as far as I'm concerned, somewhat of a household name within the World of Warcraft community, given some of your accomplishments with speedrunning in the past. Now, I just wanted to ask, obviously, we start with a few layup questions, a few of the easy ones before we really get into the nitty-gritty of it. So, just to get people set up here and know a little bit more about you. Speedrunning in general. I know you mentioned that, you obviously love doing some of the Castlevania speedrunning as well, but what got you into speedrunning on the whole?
I started speedrunning at the age of 8 with Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, and then I moved on to cooperative speedruns through Doom 2, and then Quake 1 speedruns, and then Castlevania 4 speedruns, StarCraft 2 Brutal campaign speedruns, and then Vanilla WoW in 2003, Castlevania stuff on Twitch in 2013 all the way to 2018. And now I'm back on Vanilla WoW ever since January of 2018.
I'm so glad you mentioned Simon's Quest because I do have a question about that later on, but we'll get there. I've got a bit of a Castlevania thing as well, so we'll get there in the end. But so you started speedrunning from the age of 8, you said, and obviously some of these games grabbed your interest. Now, when it came to, well, let's say just before you got to World of Warcraft, do you remember what game you were really focused on just prior to the release of WoW?
Yep, that was Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, I think it was, or it might have been the Reign of Chaos.
So we moved on to eventually you hit on World of Warcraft, and you mentioned that you started in the beta. Now, just your initial, I always find it interesting to talk to people that did start in the beta. What were your memories, and I appreciate it was a very long time ago, but what are some of your memories from the beta of WoW?
I was thinking this game was amazing. Like, wow, this is a unique game that I've never played before, a type of game that I've never seen before, and it was just absolutely just blew my mind. And some priests, I leveled a hunter, a warlock, and basically I leveled like one of each character class to like level 20. And then I would create a new character in like a different starting zone to like level 20. And then I eventually got a warlock all the way to 60 in the beta. And I fell in love with the game. Like, this game's awesome.
Okay, so I was always a bit confused about this because I've heard sort of conflicting reports, and maybe you'll remember. In terms of the beta, and I know I could just look this up online, but I haven't because I've been lazy. You mentioned that you leveled to 60 in the beta. I wasn't sure if there was a level cap or not. Well, if there was a 60 level cap, and if because some people said it was lower, some people said it was higher. So do you remember it as being 60?
Actually, I cannot remember. It was pretty high up there, like 40. I can't remember. So long ago.
No worries. Yeah, I've heard 20, I've heard 40, and I've heard 60, and I'm not sure which it was, but that's all good.
Can't remember for certain.
Okay. Now, during this time in the beta, is it at that moment that you realized you would consider speedrunning World of Warcraft, or did it not hit you until much later on?
Later on. It hit me later on. In the beta, I was just playing just for fun. I didn't really start speedrunning the game until after the game came out. And after I got my first level 60 on retail, and character started to be a speedrun, yeah.
All right. So
the first time I went through the game, I pretty much read all the quests and did everything and took my time, went AFK everywhere, and just grouped up with people and just absorbed the game, basically.
So we move into the moment when you basically decided to start speedrunning. And you just talked about how you were absorbing the game, you were taking it in, it was an amazing experience. Did you, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the speedrun soon, but just overall, did you have as much fun personally doing the speedruns as you did in that initial slow burn through the game?
Yeah, I would say I did. I had a lot of fun speedrunning the vanilla WoW. It was an amazing experience for me. Like during the speedruns, my body would create tons of adrenaline, and it would be just so exhilarating to do those speedruns. And very glad I did them, and it was just an awesome experience. And I mean, like every single one of them was just amazing.
I definitely appreciate the sort of horses for courses mentality in terms of enjoying the thrill of a speed run. I remember that when I was back in high school, I went to this sort of odd high school for about a year where we'd go hiking on the weekends through the sort of mountainous ranges of Australia. And there was one group of guys that we would catch sprinting from mountain to mountain, and they weren't sort of taking their time and taking in the beautiful sights. And we always said to them, like, what are you guys doing? And they said to us, like, you don't understand. This is how we enjoy it. We enjoy beating record times and getting there faster than all of you. And so I sort of do appreciate that whilst you're not stopping to smell the roses, it's still fulfilling for you in another way. But what do you have to say to people who might say to you, oh, you're enjoying the game the wrong way. You should be stopping and smelling the roses?
Everyone has different opinions on how they enjoy their games. You know, that's ways. Like, I enjoy speedrunning a lot. I've been enjoying speedrunning ever since I was a little kid, all the way to my teens and then my 20s. I'll never quit speedrunning. It's just a fun thing to do. And WoW was an amazing speedrun experience, and it still is. And I'm looking forward to Classic launch and doing a speedrun on that, and holds for WoW speedrunning.
Okay, so yeah, I've read a fair bit, well, as much as I could, I hoped, into you and your background with speedrunning through obviously your websites and a few Reddit posts and a few other nuggets that I could turn over online. So I found a few pieces of information I wanted to run by you. And you mentioned that you, back in the vanilla days, you say you did a total of 7 speed runs from 1 to 60. And I presume you mean like 7 timed, recorded, full-on serious speed runs. And you said that those were all done on vanilla World of Warcraft 1 to 60 on brand new official Blizzard realms from 2005 to 2006. You did not speed run any expansion packs. Between speed runs, you would do tons of practice and research to figure out how to do the next run even faster. So my question for you is this, following up from that quote of yours. Of the 7 speedruns that you did from 1 to 60, were there times when you wanted to stop because you felt that you had messed something up?
Stop. Not really. The thing with WoW is there's no resets. Like the Castlevania games, almost any other game, there's resets involved. But with vanilla WoW, the run is so long that there is no point in resetting. Like if I die, then I just have to get back on track and just keep on going. There wasn't really any time where I wanted to delete my character and start over. There just never was. Although on the 4-day, 20-hour run that I actually recorded, which was the only one I did record, I almost died to Sarkoth at the very beginning of the game. Almost died, and I would have resetted there. I would have resetted if I would have died.
Wow.
And die, and everything was good.
Wow, I'm sure you're glad that you didn't in the end. But you mentioned that 4-day, 20-hour run, and I want to get to that in just one second. But I guess the follow-up to that is, I mean, being a speedrunner and going through the tense nature of some of the playthroughs that you do, do you go through moments of rage, whether it's with World of Warcraft or any game in particular? Like, have you thrown any controllers or keyboards through screens? Have you had really frustrating moments?
Speedrunning, no, but playing RTS games, yes. There has been times where I was upset, like playing StarCraft or Warcraft 3, and I lost, and I just I got upset, but those were the only times I ever did really get upset in gaming. I don't think I've ever really got upset with speedrunning before for anything.
Okay, so you mentioned that run that a lot of people have seen or know about, that 4-day, 20-hour run. Now, just in case people aren't aware, that I'm pretty sure that was a world record at the time, and if so, is that correct? And has it been beaten since?
I'm aware of that. Still actually stands as the world record for original vanilla WoW, and nowadays people are getting lower times on private servers, but you really can't look at that as beating the time that I got, and because of so many different variables involved in the private servers, like the different quest experience you get for turning in quests after level 30 is much greater, especially on Light's Hope private servers. Chronos now has recently fixed that, but there's other things that are different on the private servers, like escort quests are tweaked differently, just not acting exactly like they were back in vanilla. And it's not an exact comparison. So you can't have a good time comparison to the 4-day, 20-hour run until actually Classic WoW comes out.
Knowing that it's a pure, it's an emulation and there is a bit of guesswork that goes into some of these private servers and the data that they contain, and knowing that some people have, quote unquote, beaten your record, even though I'm with you, I don't think that quite counts. Have you had anyone try to rub your nose in it and say, I got you, like you're no longer the champ, or anything like that?
Not directly to me, but I've seen forum posts where they say, "Hey, I got the world record, and this is beats Joana's time." I've seen forum posts like that, but you really can't look at that as someone beating my time, because it's just different. The time they got was the time they got for that specific private server, and not for original vanilla WoW. It's different. It's different timing variables, and there's a lot of different timing variables between the two.
So when you talk about some of those timing variables, what are some notable specific examples that come to mind? You've obviously mentioned things like the escort quests and stuff like that. Anything else that people might not think of that is blatantly different that would allow a private server player to sort of quote unquote cheat the system a little bit in terms of timing?
Well, the biggest example is the quest turn-in experience for Light's Hope private servers, is that they get 30% more experience for each quest after level 30, which is huge. And like another example is right now I'm using hunters on a private server, and if you send your hunter to go attack a mob and your character doesn't attack, then you remain out of combat and you can start drinking food, drinking water or eating food or doing something else while you're out of combat. But in original vanilla WoW, you go send your pet to attack a mob and your character goes in combat. Like that's another like little example of like little differences. I would have to think about this more, about all the different timing variables and stuff. That's just a few that come to my mind right now.
No, that's okay. If anything comes to mind later on, we can always come back to it, but we'll move along for now. So you have mentioned, obviously, that you're back playing on private servers. Classic was announced. You obviously jumped on Reddit and you said to the community, hey, I will be coming back for Classic. You do plan to do it all again. You do plan to go for the world first. And you mentioned that before Classic WoW comes out, you were planning to warm up on private servers, and presumably that's what you've been doing. How has it been going?
That's going great. I'm basically rebuilding my guide right now, and I'm all the way up to level 55. So levels 1 to 55, I'm very well refreshed of the game, and I even have faster routes. And I even have I found a lot of faster shortcuts in the game world. And I am pretty well prepared to do 1 to 55. And within the next month, 55 to 60 will be pretty down good. And then I haven't actually done a speed run yet, but all this preparation I'm doing will help me to do the next speed run, which could be tomorrow.
Now, sorry, I'm not sure if you mentioned, is that practicing as Horde or Alliance? I know you plan on doing an Alliance guy, but have you mainly been tweaking things as a Horde player so far?
Well, I'm only doing Horde so far, and right now it's Horde from 1 to 55. I'll start working on the Alliance guide in the beginning of August, I would think. Okay,
so hearing that you are already discovering things that might shorten your world record time, and appreciating that you've got a guide coming out, is there anything that you can tease, the one particular shortcut that you were really surprised to discover in your time on private servers so far this year?
In Hillsbrad, that section was completely revamped at level like 28 to 30 or level 29. Before I just had you like do a few quests, but now there's a whole list of quests. Like that is one big change that I've made. A lot of little changes everywhere. And the guide that I'm rebuilding is actually a lot more efficient to follow. And there's about, twice as much information per step. Like before, I would just say, do this quest. Now I'm saying, do the quest, and I give a brief description of where to go and how to do it and what you need to do for it and any tips that would be helpful for it. So yeah, this new guide I'm building is very helpful and more valuable information on almost every single step. As far as like big shortcuts, I had to think about that. There's just a lot of little stuff that was implemented, but as far as big ones, I can't really think of any big ones.
No worries. Now, you mentioned something there that piqued my interest and was something that I was wanting to ask you about, and that's obviously involving the passage of time. We obviously stuck in a situation where we might be getting Classic WoW, 15 years after the original version of the game. And not only that, but now we might be getting an updated speed leveling guide from yourself, many, many, many years after the original version. Is there anything, and you've already said you are improving things and you're more comfortable with the guide now than perhaps you were back in the day. Is there something you do differently had you the chance to do the guide the first time again?
Differently, yeah, the guide has morphed over time. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking about, but yeah, it started off as a binded book that I would ship to my customers, actually, like through the mail. And then about 6 months after that, I made a website, joanasworld.com, which is still where the guide's at now. And then everything was downloaded digitally. And over time, I've tweaked it so everything is just more efficient, and everything is linked. All the quests are linked to right now Classic DB, and there eventually will be an in-game guide as well that will go along with it. So, but that's another project that I need to work on later on. Honestly, going through the guides over and over again and just reworking them so that they're better each time.
Okay, now you touched on your plans for an Alliance version of the guide, and I'm not sure, do you get a lot of requests for that? Do you get people kicking down your door going, where's the Alliance version?
Yeah, the Alliance guide is definitely it peaked, and I am aware of that, and I do plan on definitely getting an Alliance guide. That's going to take about a whole year of work, though. I haven't really done any work on that at all, and I'm going to be starting on that in August once I'm done with the 1 to 60 Horde. And yeah, that is a huge project that I'm going to be undertaking, and I'm looking forward to it.
So I appreciate that you say you're looking forward to it. Is there, I guess I should ask, do you have much experience with the Alliance at all, really, in between all this time that you've spent, devoting yourself to a Horde leveling guide? And flowing on from that, is there a small part of you that somewhat rolls your eyes and goes, oh, fuck, I'm going to go through all this again?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's going to take a lot of time. Like, the amount of work that's in front of me is crazy. Like, not only do I want to make an Alliance guide, I also want to make a class guide for every single class and implement that into my guides. And like right now, I only list 100 steps in my Horde guide, and I want to be able to list the steps for every single character class in both the Horde and the Alliance guide. So, and also make an in-game guide for both factions. And I'm doing all this work myself, and yeah, it is a lot of work. So just the amount of work that I'm looking at, it blows my mind on the amount of work that is in front of me. But probably within a few years, I should get it all done, I would think. That's the only thing about the eye rolling thing. As long as I'm able to get compensated for all this time I'm putting into, then it should be all right. Right now, I'm spending about 50 hours a week building the guide, and I'm not getting much income in return. So if I can get compensated, then I will be more than happy to put all my time into this stuff. Like, I love working on WoW. Like, it don't matter what it is. It'd be Alliance, Horde, it don't matter. But yeah, I mean, that's the only thing right there is just time I'm putting into it. Is like, am I going to be able to support myself? That's the only issue I'm facing with all this.
No, I appreciate time investments into side projects with World of Warcraft. This podcast has taken up about 30 plus hours of my week since I started. So I do know where you're coming from in a way. I couldn't imagine doing 50 plus hours. Gosh. But, in terms of your experience with the Alliance, would you describe that level of your involvement with that faction as virtually none, as minimal, as bigger than people think? What would you say?
I've only got a few Alliance characters to like level 50. I've never got Alliance to level 60 yet. I've never done that. Only to like level 50. And I got like 1 to 45, and I got another one I got many to level 20. I got a lot of 20 Alliance characters, but never got a 60. Yeah, my experience is very minimal. However, how the game works, there's going to be some places where I'm going to be able to copy and paste parts of my Horde guide into my Alliance guide, like all the Booty Bay quests, Gadget Zan, Everlook, all those Goblin towns, all the neutral towns. So it shouldn't be like really bad or take like a large amount of time, I would think, just because of all the neutral towns and neutral NPCs.
When we talk about the practice that you've been doing on private servers, and appreciating that we obviously just last week got some relatively big news from Blizzard in terms of Classic, when they said that they've picked 1.12 as a foundation for Classic, whatever that may mean. But In terms of patches and knowing that, obviously a lot of private servers operate off of 1.12, how will that change the game for you and your leveling guide?
I've been actually kind of nervous about what patch that they were going to use for Classic WoW, because right now I'm building the guide on 1.12. And when we just heard the news like a week ago about their foundation of 1.12, like I literally had a huge sigh of relief when I read that. I'm like, oh, thank God. That was nice to hear, because that is exactly what I'm rebuilding my guide on. And that was really good to know. And the guide should stay up to date, because all the other patches, they shouldn't affect all the quests much. Like everything should be pretty accurate for my guides.
Okay, so it would have been a real kick in the pants if Blizzard had randomly just said, you know what, we threw a dart on a board and we're starting with patch 1.4.
Yeah. I mean, even if they did that though, like I don't think there wasn't too many changes for the quests from like 1.4 to 1.12 even. Like I don't think there wasn't like too many changes on the quests. Oh, that brought out more, like a lot of changes, especially with the quest experience turn-ins were like way more. Like turning in quests after patch 2.0, like pretty much made a lot of zones obsolete. Like I had to take them out of my guide because players would level too fast, and I had to take content out of my guide. Was a patch that I was hoping they wouldn't use, that I thought they may consider. So I'm glad it's 1.12 and not 2.0. 1.4 though, yeah, I mean, I probably would have been a little disappointed to see that, since a guide in 1.12. But even then though, like I will do all the work it takes to make my guide compatible for Classic WoW, even if it means scrapping parts of the guide and rebuilding it. But yeah, 1.12, I was happy to hear that.
Now, just out of interest, when you are dabbling around on these private servers, do you happen to use Questy at all, or any add-ons that might assist you?
Oh, I tried out Questy. It's all right, but I don't really feel like I need it. I used Vanilla Guide, which is actually my guide. And I prefer to use my own web guide, actually. Use any other add-ons. I mean, I do have some add-ons like cooldown count and pop bar and little things that I find useful, but nothing that will actually help me questing.
Okay. Now, I just want to read you a quote that I found over at the Elysium forums from a user named Omaru, who says this. The time that Joanna got to 60 in speaks for itself. It's a good guide. What you have to take into consideration, though, is that it's the first guide that comes up when you Google Vanilla WoW Leveling Guide. So you can bet that 80% of other players who'll be rolling on the fresh server have seen it too. That might make some other zones Joanna usually excludes worthwhile visiting. So here's my follow-up question from that quote. With the congestion that's possibly coming with the launch of a classic server, and obviously could also apply to some private servers as well, do you think venturing outside your guide will pay off a little bit for someone chasing a server first?
That's a good question, and you're probably right, actually. Tomorrow, there's a new private server launching. My guide is not going to be very useful at the very beginning, because it's going to be hard to do the quests. There's going to be so many people camping every single mob, and if you're trying to do the quest, then it's probably going to slow you down. It's probably going to be a faster method in order to deal with a lot of people. The best way to deal with of a very crowded server is probably grouping up with people and killing mobs that are like 3 to 5 levels higher than you are, and finding a good grinding spot for that. Keep grinding away at like mobs that are higher than you are with the group for like first 10 to 20 levels. And then if you can break away from the crowd, then that is when you can start using my guide. If the quests are free of people, there's not people camping all the mobs, then that is a good place to start using my guide at. But from the crowd, my guide is not going to be very useful in that situation.
Okay. Now, if one were to, I'll ask this. Considering what you just said, and you mentioned something about the levels of mobs, and I had a listener question for the end of the show, but I'll bump it up the order and ask it now. And listener of the show, GR, asks the following of you, Joanna. When grinding for levels, is it generally more efficient to be killing green, orange, or red mobs? Harder mobs give more experience, but lower levels generally mean less downtime. Over time, which is the better investment? And I presume that listener is obviously talking about being solo.
I would say the best mob to grind on is exactly what your level is. And the next best would probably be 2 levels below you, not 2 levels above you. That's what I think would be best.
Okay. Now, I just want to ask one more question from the forums, and we turn now to Reddit, where user Bezawit says the following. Joanna's guide assumes you are killing everything from point A to point B. Especially as a class with mana, if your mana is ever close to being full, you should kill something. So my follow-up question from that particular post is this. When you were building your guide, did you ever try versions of the guide without killing stuff from point A to point B?
Yeah, I think I have. I think when I first started speedrunning the game, I was more in the lines of jumping to quests without grinding in between them. But then the more speedruns I've done, I've realized that you level faster simply grinding on your way to and from quests. Because eventually you're going to get to a point to where there's no quest to do and you need the grind for like almost a whole level. So it's like you might as well be grinding to and from quests right from the start so that when it does come time to do that big grind, that you don't have to do it as long because you've already been grinding to and from quests. Like I found that out just through the natural course of speedrunning the game.
When you were obviously back in the day and you were doing what you were doing with the speed leveling, another thing about you that people either may or may not know is that Blizzard held a contest back in 2006, a first to level 50 speed run, and you obviously participated and you were the winner of that contest. What are your memories of that particular run?
Memories of that run. One of my worst memories of the run was we wasn't able to use any add-ons. So I wasn't able to use cooldown count, bar options, and pop bar, and just all my other add-ons that made everything easier. But I was still able to do the run and get to level 50. And I was considering going all the way to 60, but I decided to stop and call it a run at level 50, even though there were some other players that decided to go all the way to 60 on that server. I decided to stop at 50. And sadly, there wasn't really any competition. I pretty much smoked everyone.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you won by about 4 levels, and my follow-up question was, and now I think I know what the answer is going to be, at any point during that run, did you feel any kind of pressure from the competition or any moments of heat?
Maybe from levels 20 to 30, I was pretty close. Like there was like maybe a player that was like a level behind me at that time. Wasn't that much pressure really. Like in the 40s, I started really pulling away from everybody. Like just a breeze, really. Like I wasn't too concerned about anyone passing me up or anything like that. So it was pretty easy.
Now, the one bit of information that I couldn't find was in this contest. Was there any prize? What was the deal at the end of it?
Wasn't any prizes. It was basically everyone. I think like everyone who got to level 50 got a free beta access for the Burning Crusade, And I think that was it. I don't think there was any other prizes.
Out of interest, either as a result of winning that competition or through your leveling guides or anything else, have you had much contact at all with Blizzard?
I've never talked to them for anything. They've never contacted me for anything, so no.
Okay. And I guess a question flowing on from that is, regardless of whether or not Blizzard has touched base, and I'm not sure in what aspect they would, but I would have thought that perhaps as a result of that speed leveling win, they might have said like, hey, Joanna, like, let's, I don't know, have a chat or something. I don't know. But you are relatively well known within the World of Warcraft community. Is there anything that makes it hard or easy for you in terms of dealing what I would term to be World of Warcraft fame?
In the days when I speedran the game and was launching my guide, I got a lot of emails. There would be days where I just had to read emails all day long. And, that got a little crazy, but yeah, I mean, I still, even till this day, I'm always sorting through emails, and I got fans that say that I'm doing awesome work and all that, which is cool. It doesn't really bother me too much, I guess. I don't know.
Have there been any negative effects of having people know who you are in the game?
No, I met people in real life, actually. Like, I went to Las Vegas once, and this guy was talking about me, and I'm like, hey, that is me. And there's like little simple things like that. I'm like I was a landscaper for like 15 years, and like my last year of landscaping was in 2006, and I went to some houses to landscape, and there was customers, landscape people that met me and are like, whoa, you were the Joanna guy who did 1 to 60. I'm like, yep. Like, I met a lot of people in real life that know who I am. Is this is a little flattering, I guess.
Wow, definitely.
But nothing negative though.
You must have gotten a kick out of that for sure. Going on from there, you mentioned obviously a little bit about real life and your dealings with people and bumping into people who might know your work, but another aspect of your real life that I want to know about in terms of speed leveling, and you do give a fair bit of information online, and I think that I found an interview that you conducted that you talk about the physical effects that speed leveling has on you, and you said the following. When I'm racing on new servers, I sleep about 4 to 6 hours per day. Sometimes I can sleep as little as 3 hours in a day. I do not drink coffee. I just let my mind produce adrenaline naturally while I'm leveling to keep me awake. So my question from your quote would be this. Have you been tempted to do the slow in real life version of a speed run over a couple of months? Or basically, like, what are the rules? Is it still a speed run if you don't do it in a couple of weeks? What happens if you were to take it easy, play a few hours, a couple of hours a day, log, live your real life, and effectively the time would still be the same, wouldn't it? How do you view it?
For me, part of the speed running of WoW is basically doing it on a new server against other people. Like, I look at it as kind of like a race. If you're doing it on an existing server or taking your time to get it done, then it just doesn't seem as cool to me than doing it on a fresh new server with other people. And then you get more exposure. Everyone can see the who list and see who gets the 61st. And it's just more exciting to do that. And I have never done any speed runs through WoW on existing servers or taking my time. That just doesn't really interest me. I like to do them on fresh servers with other people from 1 to 60.
Okay, no, you raise a really good point, and something I didn't consider, obviously, the notion of the server first and the thrill that you get out of that. But I guess what I'm getting at is, if you take away the server first, let's say you don't care about being the first on your server to 60, would you, as a speedrunner, view a world record time as legitimate if, say, someone did it over the course of, 6 months, a year? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's also issues with that. And the issue with that is rested experience. When you do it like in a relatively short amount of time, then that player didn't use much rested experience. to do it over like a 6-month period, like that person would, the time would be kind of inaccurate, I guess, because of all the rested experience that was built up during that time. If you were to do it during a long period like that, then like it would be more fair for that character to log out outside of an inn, so the rested experience is not built up as much, I guess. But I've never, I don't know. I never wanted to do anything like that. I guess that could happen. And if I do a speed run on existing server, it would probably be less than like 3 weeks, I would think. Anything more than 3 weeks seems like you would get too much rested experience. Like even if you're going outside of an inn to rest.
Okay. Now, keeping Classic in mind again and its impending release, when you heard about Classic and in practicing in the private servers and doing what you're doing now, were you tempted at all? Was there a very small part of you that thought for a second, you know what, maybe this time I'll just go back to taking it easy and just play the game normally? Or did you know there was never any question that you'd be speed leveling again?
What time frame are we looking at again?
Let's say from the moment that Classic was released all the way up to today, over the last, 7-8 months, has there ever been a moment of, I don't want to call it weakness, but a moment of contemplation where you thought, you know what, maybe I'm done. I just want to enjoy the game?
I enjoy the game with speedrunning, so I see myself doing some variety of some stuff, like doing some dungeons and raids, but the majority of my time I will be speedrunning, and that's what I enjoy doing, so not really, I guess.
Okay. Now, out of interest, I forgot to ask before, with these the Alliance version of the guide that you're planning on focusing on eventually, have you looked at anyone else's Alliance guides online?
Actually had a few people contact me and wanting to send me their Alliance guide. And there's one guy sent me their Alliance guide, like their route all listed out. And I'm like, wow, this guy put in some serious work. And I kind of skimmed over it. I didn't really actually study it too hard. But once I start working on the Alliance guide about a month from now, I probably will be viewing some other people's guides to see what their route is and getting a good idea of like what routes I should be using for my guide. And cool to see other people's routes and to see what they've used to get from 1 to 60, and yeah, see what I can implement into my guide from their work that they've done. Now,
I saw online the point that, and tell me if this is true, that a lot of people tried to rewrite your guide and on-sell it themselves. Is that something that you knew about?
I was aware of that. I've been through many, there was a lot of people trying to sell my guide on eBay and stuff back in the day, and I just had to send a lot of DMCAs to all those people. And there was days where I just spent all day long just sending DMCAs for people to take down my guide because they were trying to sell it, and it was just a lot of work dealing with that. Yeah, that was kind of annoying to deal with, and I mean I took care of it. The DMCAs do help a lot. It's a DMCA takedown notice, and they just take it down. If they don't, then the web host will just take it down for me.
I've got no doubt it must have been a very annoying exercise. Outside of that, how did it make you feel personally about these people that would just try to rip you off like that?
It was kind of sad, actually. Like, really, these people are trying to sell my work? Like, really? There was one thing about pirates and the people that sold my work. I didn't really care so much about pirates. That didn't really bother me so much. But people actually trying to sell my guide for profit, eBay, that did kind of bother me a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, as you mentioned, the guide was obviously it's been available both in paid versions and free versions over the years. There were a number of years there where I presume that the guide was actually quite successful for you. Would that be fair to say?
It was very successful, yeah.
Okay. So my follow-up question is, let's be honest now, how many yachts or private islands did you buy from the guide money?
Let's see. Well, I was able to buy a BMW vehicle. That was one thing I have from all that. And I did remodel my house. I got a 180-gallon fish tank. I got a movie theater in my bedroom. I got a big hot tub in my backyard. I did some remodeling in my house, but that was about it, though. I went on a number of vacations, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything too extreme. But I did get a little extra cash, I guess.
Excellent. And I've got no doubt that you deserved every penny you got with the hard work that you put in. Well, perhaps the private island is still on the list for Classic. We'll see how you go. But my next question will be this. What would you say is a leveling time that the average player should be proud of if on their journey to 60 if they are not speed running?
Oh, I mean, if this is their first character, like ever for the game, then I wouldn't. You shouldn't really be like. You should not really look at your playtime like at all. Like it should not be something that you should be trying to achieve on your first character. Like maybe your second or third character, yeah. Like your second character, if you get under like 15 days played, that's pretty good. Your third character, if you can get that down to like 10 days played, that's pretty good. Fourth character, like under 8 days, something like that is probably a good benchmark, I would think.
And inversely, do you think that there's a possible / time played that someone should probably hide their shame over? Is there, if someone did it in about, 20 days played, 25 days played, would that be a bit indicative of the fact that they've got a lot of work to do?
Like I said, like I wouldn't be ashamed. I mean, it just really depends. I think it totally depends on what you're trying to do with the game. Like if it's your first time ever playing the game, then your play time means like nothing. But if you're actually like literally trying to get through the game quickly, and if you get over like 20 days played, then yeah, that's kind of bad. I wouldn't stress out over like, like. That's too bad, I guess.
Now, you mentioned on your website, you say that you had to rewrite your entire 1 to 60 leveling guide for all the cataclysm changes. And I mentioned, sorry, I did mention at the top of the show, I think I read a quote. They might have been made at different times, obviously. I wasn't sure whether you did play the expansions or not, and if you speed leveled through the expansions, but you said that when Cataclysm came, you said Cataclysm was a cataclysm on your life. So my question is this. How annoyed were you with what Blizzard did with Cataclysm and how it affected your work?
Cataclysm was a cataclysm to my life, yes. That was when I started losing interest in the game completely, and my interest to speedrun the game just totally like disappeared. All the work I previously did from my 1 to 60 guide was obsolete. I had to rewrite the whole thing, and it was just a nightmare. I had to spend 3 months rewriting my guide as a free update for everybody, and interest at the same time. And I think I did do the expansion pack after that, Miss of Pandaria. I did a leveling guide for that. But then after that, I pretty much said, I'm done with this game. It's time to speedrun something that's fun. Like I was missing speedrunning in my life because those expansion packs were just like linear hand-holding experiences that were not fun to speedrun. And I was missing speedrunning in my life. Like I was willing to drop out selling leveling guides to go back to speedrunning. And that's exactly what I did in 2013. I said goodbye, retail WoW. I'm ready to actually speedrun a game. And that's when I went to Twitch and started speedrunning Castlevania 2 and then Castlevania 4 on Twitch in 2013. And I'm like, goodbye, retail WoW. I'm done with that. But then in 2017, when they announced Classic WoW, like my jaw just dropped to the floor. I'm like, no way that's coming back. No way. I definitely got to do that. I'm going to be jumping on that, and I'm looking forward to it. And that's and out.
You mentioned Castlevania, which is the perfect segue because literally my next question was going down this track. So I'm so glad. That was great timing. And this is something that does interest me, and appreciating that this is a World of Warcraft classic podcast. But obviously we're all kind of gamers at the end of the day. I'm sure people won't mind if we just go off this beaten track a little bit and talk about other games that you've sped run in the past. And particularly I wanted to focus on your, what seems to be a little bit of a love affair with the Castlevania franchise. And I similarly enjoy a Castlevania game or two in my time. And I wanted to ask this. I obviously had a look on your Twitch account, and I saw immediately the first video that sprung out to me was one from September 30th of last year, where you had any percentage world record of 1132.7 on Castlevania 1. Now, does that still stand? What can you tell us about that world record?
Yeah. I actually achieved the world record in Castlevania 1 on the NES in September of 2017, and it remained as the world record for 2.5 months until Jonte took it. And then, I think it was 5 months later, JC took it, and now JC still has the record right now, which is 5 seconds faster than the time that I achieved back in 2017. Yep.
So that 2017 run that you did through Castlevania 1, when you sit there and you collect that final orb and you hit that buzzer, how much did you beat the previous time by? Was it super tight?
It was 2 seconds or something. I can't remember exactly. But it took me 2.5 months from the time I started speedrunning Castlevania 1 until I got the world record in that game. Castlevania 4, which I did a few years prior, that actually took about 10 months of playing 10 hours a day, 6 days a week until I got the world record in that game. That game was a totally different story, but there was other people. The top 3 players were constantly playing too at the same time, so that was definitely a challenge. But yeah, Castlevania 4 is probably my all-time favorite video game, actually. Speedrunning that game.
I gathered that, and obviously there's a bunch of videos on your Twitch account that I was really interested by, but just a few more follow-up questions on the Castlevania thing. Well, firstly, I'll start with this really. Outside of World of Warcraft, how did it feel to have the world record in something as, what I would still say, as relatively popular as Castlevania?
When I guess my first world record was in Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. That was the first game I started speedrunning on Twitch, and I actually obtained all the world records in every single category for that game. And over the course of about 5 or 6 months. And yeah, it felt exhilarating. Wow, I'm the king of this game now. I got all the records in this game. And then I moved to Castlevania 4, and it took me 10 months to get the world record in that game. But yeah, it was exhilarating. It was really cool to actually speed run some of my favorite games I grew up as when I was a kid. I'm wow, this is fun. It was like a different speed running experience than speed running WoW, because the games are much shorter, but there are a lot of resets involved though. But yeah, it's really exciting to speed run retro games. I've definitely enjoyed that a lot throughout my life.
So you mentioned that, is it the Super Castlevania 4 is your favorite Castlevania game? Is that right?
Castlevania 4 is my favorite Castlevania game, yes.
Outside of that, what would be your favorite?
Second favorite? You mean my second favorite all-time video game?
The second favorite Castlevania game.
Second favorite Castlevania game? I would think I really don't have a second favorite. Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much all tied for me. They're all evenly good. I can't say which one I like better than the other. Castlevania 4 is clearly my first, though. I don't really have a second.
No problems. Now, what are your thoughts? I'll ask 2 questions on this one, and I'll start with this first. What are your thoughts generally about Simon's Quest? It's a game that I've always had a bit of a love-hate affair with, and I'm still quite fond of it. But what do you think of it?
Of that game. I grew up that game. That was the first game I speed ran when I was 8 years old, and it was the first experience I ever had where you were to collect a currency to buy items in any game I've ever played. And it was just an awesome experience. Like, I never played a game where you collected a currency to go into towns and buy items. It was the first game I've ever experienced that from. And it was just awesome, especially with the Castlevania game for that. Like, that was just so cool. However, the game does have flaws, though. Castlevania 2 is flawed. Like, you needed a guide to get through the game to show you which crystals you need to equip in different areas and all that. That was kind of annoying, but once you had the Nintendo Power Guide to guide you through all that, then the game was actually really fun. Like, I really enjoyed the leveling up aspect of that and getting currency, which was hearts, to buy items. That was really fun to me. I enjoyed that.
And with Castlevania 2 being the one that was, a little bit different, obviously with those RPG elements that Nintendo went out on a limb Konami went out on a limb and introduced. Did that present difficulties? Was it a weird one to speedrun? What kind of challenges come up when you speedrun Simon's Quest?
Speedrunning that game was a challenge. The biggest challenge was finding the route to do for that game. Like, there was different routes that you can take. Like, should I get the chain whip, or should I skip it and go right for the flame whip, or should I skip the flame whip, or should I go this way rather than going that way, or should I do a floor drop here to go this way instead of that way? Like, the routing was the hardest part, but it was fun though. The routing was fun because there's just so many different routes that you could take in that game. The routing.
Okay. Now, thank you so much for letting me scratch that Castlevania itch a little bit. I do appreciate that. We'll just jump back onto World of Warcraft for a second. Now, just to sort of bring the body of the interview to a close, realistically, what time do you think you can achieve on World of Warcraft Classic for your speed leveling run?
That's a good question. I definitely feel like my 4-day, 20-hour record run from Vanilla WoW is definitely beatable. And I would say by at least like 10 hours, probably even under 4 days, like possibly that could be possible. Like, you might be able to squeeze out a sub 4-day run in Classic WoW. That could happen. But like, I can see myself getting like 4 days, 5 hours, 4 days, 5 hours to 4 days, 10 hours in that time frame right there.
Now, not suggesting you're anything but a spry young gentleman these days. However, how do you think, and you say this on your website, you say, I hope my 12-year-older body can still handle the 18-hour daily speedrun grinds again. So my question is, how do you think you'll hold up with going for this world record again all these years later physically?
That's definitely a good question. And when I did my speed runs through Vanilla WoW, I was 26 years old. And right now I am 37 years old, which is like I am 12 years older. However, I do take really good care of my health, though. Like, I do a lot of things to try to stay healthy, and I exercise. I take good care of my body, and I should be able to handle it. However, I won't really know until I actually give it a shot. Like, it's just one of those things where you don't really know until you try it. But I think I should do okay, even though I have been recently diagnosed with a severe heart condition. I hope that doesn't interfere with that. But it's just hard to say, but I think I should be okay, I think.
So with the diagnosis that you got with your condition, do you think that will stop you from doing the 15 minutes of cardio that you would do before each session before, or will you still try and do that?
Me and the cardio? Yeah, I'm able to still do my cardio workouts, yeah. And I do think that helps me a lot to keep the blood going and staying energized. Yeah, I'm still able to do that. I don't think there should be any issues physically, because especially now that the run is like less, it takes less than like 6 days, a 6-day span to do the whole thing. The only thing is I may not be able to play like 20 hours a day. Like, I may have to only play like 17 or 18 hours a day instead of like 20. That would probably be the only like major change, which that could really hinder my ability to get server first to 60 though. I don't like, I'm not going to like stay up more than like 18 hours a day.
Well, I'll definitely say that, whilst we're all excited for you to achieve that world record and we're all rooting for you, obviously health is number one. So we all hope that it all works out, in terms of being able to manage everything, in terms of, getting that record and staying as healthy as you can be as well. So we'll be cheering you on. But my next question would be this. I presume when you're talking about doing this Horde run for Classic, and you'll do the Alliance later, but you'll focus on the Horde first when you're going for that server first. I mean, I can just presume you're going to be using a Troll Hunter again. Would that be right?
Yeah, I probably will be a Troll Hunter. Yeah, all my experience is with the Troll Hunter. So if I was to use a different class, I probably would have a worser time, I would think. So it would probably be a Troll Hunter. Or if anything, I might pick a Turn Hunter. Second choice.
Okay, now just a couple of final questions before we get to the fun part of the interview. Now, what's your most hated and most beloved areas to level during your speedruns?
Question. My favorite levels, well, almost everything is, there's a lot of awesome zones I like leveling in, like STV is fine, but you got to watch out for other players. Like even during a speed run, like I've noticed throughout my time, like speed running and STV is just, it's kind of more exciting because there's other you got to watch out for. It's just more exciting than STV, but like zones I like to level in, like I like Azashara, Ashenvale, Tanaris, through the game a little bit here. Even like Durotar, even the Barons is awesome. I like leveling in the Barons. There's a lot of Horde players talking in the chat. It's kind of cool to see. Every time I enter the Barons chat during a speed run back in the day, everyone's like, "Hey, Joana or Mancow's in the Barons." Everyone will be talking about me when I enter the Barons. But some of the worst zones I would think would be like the Hinterlands. That always seemed kind of depressing a little bit. The Hinterlands grind, it didn't really look forward to much. Other zones that I didn't really care for. I can't really think of any other zone that I really leveling in.
So I've actually just realized, I'm not sure if you said this at the top of the show or if I've just been remiss the whole time not to even think about it. When you're setting all these speed leveling records, are you doing so on a PvP server?
Yeah, they were all done on PvP servers, except for one of them. One of them was done on a PvE server, and that was because my friend was on there, and he was on a PvE server, and I decided to go on there too. Help him grow his guild by speedrunning on that server, and it did work out a lot. Like, his guild just grew up. It blew up fast. But yeah, that was the only time I did a PvE, was when I helped my friend build his guild up quickly.
Now I feel ridiculous because I've been sitting here this whole time just presuming that you'd been doing it all on a PvE server. And the follow-on question, obviously, from that is clearly, how did being on a PvP server affect your leveling process? Did it, I mean, I understand that you're probably racing ahead of everyone else and that if you're basically the highest level on the server, then not many people would be maybe trying to pick a fight with you. But surely there must have been times when people had a go at you and made you sweat a bit in terms of slowing you down.
Not really. Actually, there was only like maybe a few instances where someone tried to gank me and I would just kill them. But there was never a time where I was ganked during a speed run. I have never been ganked during a speed run, but I was close. I got close a few times. It was never really an issue, and that was because I was just so fast. Like, I would always be the highest level on the server, and like if there's any alliance that would try to take me down, they would be like 5 to 10 levels below me, like at least, and I would just turn around and kill them like really fast. It wasn't really an issue. I've never had any issues on PvP servers getting ganked or anything, or even had to watch out. I was just too strong, going too fast.
Does it concern you at all, given the passage of time and how much more people know about the game. And let's say there's a little Joana mini out there who has consumed your guide ad nauseum and they are pretty damn good at speed leveling. And let's say they play for the other faction. Are you worried about crossing paths with people who are pretty much as good as you now and might try to gank you and slow you down?
Yeah. Nowadays, it's going to be different. Like with Classic Launch or even with the private servers, it's different now. Yeah. Back in the day in 2006, I was just like in a league of my own back then. Like I didn't really have any competition. Nowadays, yes, there are people that have been playing vanilla WoW for quite a while now and that have their leveling paths down pretty good. And they're using my Horde guide to get similar times as me for Horde. And yeah, it's a different story now. However, I haven't done any speed runs yet on any private servers or anything to actually, like see the competition. I haven't really dealt with that yet, but yeah, that's just how that's going.
Okay, Joana, you've made it through the hard part of the interview, I guess, and now we get to the fun stuff, because now it's time for anger management. Each interview, I ask the interviewee to hit me with some of their angriest thoughts about World of Warcraft. So, Joana, FuriousPaul, Mancow, all of your titles. What makes you angry about World of Warcraft?
The worst thing would have to be a long-ass corpse run.
So what is it about corpse runs that, when you say, what's your definition of a long corpse run? What's some of the longest ones you've done, and what do you feel as you're doing them?
Yeah, if you watch my 4-day 20-hour run during STV, I think level like 42 or something like that, I had a really long corpse run that took me like 4 minutes to get back to my corpse. And that was one of the few actual deaths I had during the run. And yeah, it was probably the most during the run to see is dying, have to run a really long distance back to your corpse. Yeah.
Was that the moment that maybe you just thought about, throwing a mouse through a screen?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, yeah.
Fantastic. All right, with all that done, now it's time for the hot seat. Each interview, I put the interviewee on the hot seat and ask them about a dozen fun hypothetical questions involving the game. So, okay, here we go. I've got 3 options for you. Fuck, marry, or kill. And there'll be 3 games that you'd be speed leveling with. So, World of Warcraft, Castlevania 4, or Super Metroid. Fuck, marry, kill. Who you got?
We'll say we'll marry Castlevania 4, we'll fuck Super Metroid, and wait, what's the other word?
World of Warcraft.
Warcraft, wait, what's the last word? I forgot.
Oh, kill, so the one you hate the most.
I don't kill, wait, what? Nah, I would say kill Super Metroid, marry Castlevania 4, and then World of Warcraft, I don't know.
Gotcha, alright. Now, what's the, after you're done perhaps with World of Warcraft Classic, what's the next game that you'd love to speedrun?
I would like to speedrun another MMORPG of the future that's just amazing. Like, I've been anticipating the next MMO that just blows everyone away, and that's the game I want to speedrun and jump on. Like, it could be a totally different genre, like the World of Diablo or something this is badass. Like, that's something I'm looking forward to, and I haven't seen anything like that since Vanilla WoW. Vanilla WoW, to me, is still the king of MMOs. Seen another MMO that beats Vanilla WoW yet, and I'm waiting for that game, actually, to speedrun.
Okay. What's the meanest thing that you've ever done in World of Warcraft?
Ninja loot some stuff during a dungeon, probably.
Do you remember what items?
I think it was like a blue item. And it was like, I think it was like Strathlone or something.
Okay, all right.
I was they actually like kicked me out, but that was right when I first started playing the game. That was like my first level 60,
Right.
And it was like one of my first high level dungeons, and I just clicked on it, not even thinking about it.
Okay.
And I still have like a bad memory about that. Like, wow, I did that. Like, and then they just kicked me out. Like all of a sudden, I'm not even in the group anymore. I'm just there.
And now maybe obviously they don't know they kicked out an eventual World of Warcraft celebrity. So maybe maybe if you had another chance to group with them, they might do things differently. But outside of your world record achievements, do you have a proudest in-game moment with World of Warcraft?
Probably after completing the 4-day, 20-hour run that I recorded and hitting level 60. That was probably one of the best moments I ever had with the game, I would think. Like, I just finished recording an entire 1 to 60 run. That was also the world record time, and it was all done.
Inversely, do you have a most embarrassing in-game moment?
Almost dying to Sarkoth at the very beginning of the 4-day, 20-hour run, probably. Like, I almost died, and if I would have died, I probably would have restarted. Probably another thing was, really most of my embarrassing moments in the recorded run I did were from levels 1 to 10. Like, if you see me going into the Fortress 6 or something like that, or I think it was like I can't remember what Fortress is called, but I couldn't kill the named mob at the top of the fortress. Like, I had to, like, 2 or 3 times to try to kill that mob. It was a struggle, and I kept trying to look for a group of people to help me kill them, and it didn't look pretty good, and I eventually did kill him on my 3rd try, I think. But yeah, those are kind of embarrassing. Just those, like, I had like 1 or 2 deaths during the whole run that kind of didn't look very good. That's about it.
What was the moment that you fell in love with World of Warcraft?
I think the first time I accepted a quest. Like, wow, that was awesome. I accepted a quest. I'm going to go do this quest. I mean, it was like right off the rip. Like, the game was amazing right from the start, basically. And I think my first character was a human, and then I played the human to like level 15, or no, not level 15. It might have been like level 10. Like, I just played the starting zone, and then I played the Night Elf starting zone. This zone is just absolutely breathtaking. The Teldrassil, I'm like, wow, and I'm like. That was when I like halfway into Teldrassil, I'm like, okay, this game is just absolutely amazing. Like, this is going to be an amazing game through Teldrassil. I sensed it. Like, this game is going to be huge. And yeah, that was probably right then at the moment. I still remember too, like halfway into Teldrassil, I'm like, wow, this zone's awesome. The music is awesome. Like, the interaction with the people is just amazing. The quests are awesome to read, even, and yeah, I mean.
No, I agree. I came across someone yesterday. It might have been in the Countdown to Classic Discord, who didn't seem to be saying very nice things about Teldrassil. And I'm with you. I think it's a beautiful starting zone, and it was my first starting zone, so I've got a lot of fond memories of it. But we'll get to the final question now for you, Joana. So you've done so well up to this point, and the last question is, tell me why you, Joana, speed leveling guru, is most excited for World of Warcraft Classic.
Probably the launch of it. I mean, I can't wait to see the launch of that game. Like, how many servers are going to come out at launch? It's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot of people streaming that game. It's going to be all over Twitch. There's going to be a lot of excitement. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm going to be jumping on it and seeing if I can get to level 60 first. Hopefully an amazing experience. I think it will be.
I completely agree. I think we've got a lot to look forward to around that launch day, and it's not something that really gets specifically talked about a lot, the mayhem and the fanfare that will come with that launch day. But people obviously do accept that, yes, it's going to feature pretty damn prominently on Twitch, and it should be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a celebration for the whole community, and we all can't wait for that day. But Joana, thank you so much again for taking the time out for Countdown to Classic. Please do plug your stuff again. Where can people find you? Your website, what's going on? How can people help you out?
My website is joanasworld.com. If you just go to Google and type in Joana WoW, you'll see, I'm like the first 20 results right there. Or you can type in Horde Leveling Guide. I should be number 1 for that. Or Classic WoW Leveling Guide. Kind of phrase in Google, and you'll see me in the top 5 on there. Patreon account as well, which is where I'm getting all my funds to basically support myself to doing this right now. So you can check that out from my main website, joanasworld.com, and support me there if you like, which does help me out a lot right now. And I do have a Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook.
All your social links or whatever, is that they're all on your website? Is that the case?
Social media links are on my website, my Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and Patreon. You can find all that stuff from my website, joanasworld.com. And you can also find my website just by going to Google and typing in Horde Leveling Guide or Classic WoW Leveling Guide or 1 to 60 Guide, anything like that. You'll find me with those phrases.
Fantastic. Now, Joana, thank you so much again. I really do appreciate this. This has been a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed that chat, and I've learnt a lot, obviously, about speed leveling in general. Now, everyone, listeners, if you are not familiar with Joana's work, I do encourage you to jump on his website, check out the leveling guide. You're going to learn a lot, whether you intend to speed level or just regular level. There is some great information on there. Joana, thank you so much again, and I hope to speak to you again sometime later.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me.
And that's the interview done, and thank you so much to Joana again for taking the time out for Countdown to Classic. Please do be sure to head to any and all of the places where you can find Joana, and you'll find a link to his website in the show notes, which can direct you to a number of different places where you can find his work. But for now, that's the show, everyone. But just before I let you go, I just want to shout out to the members of the Countdown Council, whom I call every week for input on where the show should head in the week to come. So shout out to Borzen, Raidmark, Camp Sowen, Palfurus, Permadrunk, Rarebit, Seven Winters, Tsunami, The Anton, Wilson Ma, and Velarco. Thank you so much for your phenomenal support of the show. Countdown to Classic would not be the same without your support. And also, a big thank you to supporters Hurlbert, Good Kisser, Myrtle Banks, and Purgatos81 as always. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. I shall see you again on Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you all then. Have a great day.